Hi, in this video, I'm going to walk you through the Constellation embroidery practice. You'll have this worksheet that I give you, and it has 3 different ways to embroider. You're going to start by threading a single knotted thread into your embroidery needle using embroidery floss, about a wingspan. And we're going to start at the top with the back stitch. So you're going to start at the back and tape down your thread as normal. And then the first stitch you make, you're going to sew right to the X, just like a running stitch. But from there, from the bottom, you'll go up to the next X and sew back. So you can see here, I'm pulling my thread and I'm coming from the bottom of the paper to go through the X and then sewing backwards to form the stitch. So the back stitch is simply sewing backwards. You, from the bottom, sew up ahead through the X, and then you sew back to the stitch. And on this worksheet, there's varying lengths so that you can practice different lengths that will mimic the trail of the constellations. Next, we're moving on to the French knot. And just like the other, you'll start from the back and tape it down. And then each French knot has a 2 or a 3, and that's how many wraps you wrap around the needle for each knot. So here is a 3, so you can see I'm wrapping it 3 times. I'm holding my thread with my left hand as I'm pulling the needle through, and then you can see a little knot is formed. And obviously with 3 knots, you would assume that you get a larger knot than you would a 2, but it really just depends on the thickness of the embroidery floss. So that's why we're practicing varying sizes, 2s and 3s. So you'll go through that practice. So then now that you're done with the French knots, you'll go to the bottom of the paper. You'll re-thread your needle a single knot wingspan, and you're going to practice sewing a constellation. So the constellations are made up of back stitches and French knots. So you'll choose which end you want to start on, the top or the bottom, and I'm starting on the bottom here with my French knot, and then I'm doing my back stitches, and in between I'm forming my little French knots wherever I see those circles. And I'm varying the types of knots that I'm forming. Sometimes I wrap twice, sometimes I wrap 3 times. It depends on what the dot looks like on the paper, and if it looks bigger to me, I'm using a 3 wrap French knot. So you're going to go ahead, once you're done with your back stitch and your French knot practice, you're going to go ahead and tackle this constellation sewing practice. You do not have to sew the rays that are outside of the stars. Have fun!